What's the job description of a pastor?
I've had a
Like
lot
what do
of
you
people.
do?
Yeah, over the years, I've had a lot of people ask me that. I joked with some people. I had a couple ladies. I always took my paycheck to the same bank. This was years ago, and so I was in there every Wednesday. I was in there to put my check in my account. And after a couple years, the tellers, the three ladies in there said, "Can we ask you a question? What do you do all week? Like, we know you preach on Sunday, but what about the rest of the week?" And I said, "Oh, I just sit in my office and pray that people don't do dumb things, because then they call me to clean them up." And they laughed. And there's some of that, right? Like, as a pastor, you're stepping into the best days and the worst days of people's lives quite often. And
Mhm.
so there's counseling, there's giving advice beyond counsel, or in addition to counsel. Managing, the church that I'm at now is a larger church, and so we have multiple staff. So you're leading your staff and helping develop them in their own right as ministers, working with the congregation to encourage people to continue growing spiritually. I've always said my role as a pastor is to provide opportunities for people to grow. It's not necessarily my responsibility to drag you to
Mm.
spiritual health or maturity. And so there's the personal element of encouraging and walking with people toward that. But then there's also the administrative logistic part of ministry. Somebody's got to envision, how do we help people grow? What programs need to be available? What do they need to learn? What information about themselves and about who God is? What the scriptures command us? All of that all kind of weaves together. And so, yeah, ministry is the visible part of it. Is the homily, is the sermon, depending on what your church context is. The teaching, the upfront teaching, is the visible part, but that just doesn't happen in a vacuum. So there's all
Mm.
kinds of other work to be done behind the scenes.
So you're like a religious Sherpa,
That's a
It's like people can't see the top, they can't see the end, and your job is to provide the opportunities and the possibilities and to walk along and guide them.
Yeah, and maybe lead toward the safest paths to get there.